Welcome back to The Grind. In this video, we are going to take a look at Magnus and discuss if Magnus is the right rider for you. Magnus is a very cool looking rider. I am very intrigued to see what Magnus looks like when actually on a rider. But let's take a look at the skill tree and then we'll hop over to War Dragon's Neon like we always do to make some comparisons about this rider. First, we have Dragon XP, which isn't that critical. Some Dragon Training cost and heal time. Then we get right away 8% rage generation rate increase. So that's a very nice rage amount to have just at baseline. And then we have Warrior Dragon HP, Hunter Dragon HP, and then if we go all the way across this line, you get all Hunter stats. All the way across this line gets all Warrior stats. If you skip through to the middle, there's another 8% rage generation, so you can already get 16% rage generation, which is very nice. And then here you can pick Sorcerer and then Invoker. And it looks like they're all very similar amount of stats. You've got 10, 7, 7, 5. And so let's hop over to War Dragon's Neon and take a look at some comparisons here. So what I love about this website is you can select specifically the setups for Hunter, Sorcerer, Warrior, Invoker, and Defense riders. And if you scroll down, it'll show you what the max stats are for that specific build. And you can easily compare the two. So Magnus here has 24% attack and 12% HP and 16% rage with no ammo. Now, if we can compare this to another Hunter rider, for example, Sophia, 23% attack, 3% HP, 10% rage, and +1 ammo. So compared to Sophia, you get more attack, more HP, more rage, but you don't get the Hunter ammo. And it looks like here we can also compare Xandra, which is also a pretty solid rider. So Xandra for a Hunter, instead of having 24 attack, has a little bit less attack, 12 HP, gets 14% HP, and then 16 rage. Xandra gets 24% rage. So, I mean, the attack and HP are basically the same. The rage is much higher on Xandra, though. So if you have a very rage-heavy dragon, Xandra is going to be slightly better. But if you don't have Xandra, or you already have Xandra on another dragon, then getting 16% rage is quite nice. What is interesting to note, however, is that there are enough skill points. If you look here, 230 out of 230, in order to max out 2 of the branches plus the full 16% rage. So if you have a couple dragons of a couple different classes that this would benefit, then you can actually spec it to have both a Hunter and Invoker stats, or Hunter and Warrior stats, or Hunter and Sorcerer stats, and then you can swap it from class to class without actually having to reset the skill tree. I like this about dragons. I just wish more riders, I wish more riders had the standard dragon HP and attack, but then you wouldn't really need as many riders. You could just swap it from dragon to dragon. So I understand why they don't do that. So at least you have the option to skill two different classes, and then this rider can be used for Hunters and Invokers, for example. So looking at the Invoker setup as well, you'll see that the amount of attack in HP and rage are the exact same across all the classes, actually. So what you have to decide is, what dragon do you think this rider is going to be used for? And if the answer is that you want a more generic Hunter and Invoker rider, then Magnus is probably a good one to pick, and likely will fit quite nicely on any Hunter and Invoker that you use. The one thing to keep in mind is most Hunters benefit from ammo as well, and this rider does not have ammo. But if you have a couple ammo runes, then you can very easily make up for that. Unfortunately, those are rare runes, and so I usually recommend getting a rider that has an ammo and then using more rage runes to compensate. So it really depends on your individual situation and whether or not you have access to different riders or not. But yes, Magnus is a solid rider, and specifically for dragons that benefit more from attack, which are hunters typically, usually invokers, and usually you don't benefit as much on sorcerers and warriors with attack. But for example, Krelos, if you have Krelos and don't have an ideal rider, Magnus would be great because Krelos, the tail smash, scales up with attack. You get a lot of extra rage as well, which is awesome for Krelos, and it has a reasonable amount of HP as well. So I would say in general, Magnus is a very well-rounded rider for specifically dragons that benefit from attack, which is generically hunters and invokers, but the odd situation a sorcerer and less commonly warriors would benefit. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you want one for a warrior or a sorcerer, you might want to find one that has more HP based stats. And Xandra is actually another good one that you can use for that if you happen to have Xandra. She also has a lot of rage. Venus is another solid one with a lot of HP and also a good amount of rage. But also Zephon, you can build for HP and get a ton of HP, 38%. You don't get any attack out of it, but you also get 10% rage. So that's also a good choice for warriors. Again, for warriors, you typically want to max out on the HP and rage. For sorcerers, it's also usually the same, maxing out on HP and rage, except for unique situations like Krelos that have a specific spell that's critical to their kit that scales up with attack. So that's basically it. Yes, the riders are good, and they are good for different dragons or different reasons. So you'll have to consider your situation, what dragon you want a rider for, what riders you already have access for, and then make your decision going forward. So I do hope this video was helpful. Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.